It was March 28, 2014. A quiet border crossing between Canada and the US. A young man sits in the passenger seat, thinking this is just a quick trip to pick up a car part from a friend. Routine, harmless. But when the border officer scans his passport, a single online username flashes on the screen. "What's Zenova?" the officer asks. Seconds later, weapons are drawn. The young man is surrounded, arrested on the spot. He wasn't there for a car bumper. He was walking straight into an FBI trap. This is the story of how console tweaking and gaming hacks spiraled into one of the most jaw-dropping cyber cases in history. It's the story of a group of teenagers who, obsessed with technology, would infiltrate the world's biggest companies and accidentally step into US military systems. This is the twisted story of the kids who hacked Xbox, but it doesn't end how you'd expect. Our story starts with David, a 22-year-old computer science student from Canada. Online, he was known as Zenova. He loved tinkering with the original Xbox, and honestly, he wasn't much different from any other curious gamer, just smarter, faster, and way more daring. By 2001, he was already building his own software tools. When the OG Xbox launched, he didn't just play Halo, he decoded it. He joined underground forums, modified console firmware, and even wrote programs that altered weapon physics and in-game weather. He quickly became a known name in hacking circles, but at the end of the day, he was still just a kid chasing thrills. At this point, David wasn't a criminal. He was a brilliant thinker stuck in a gray zone. Hacking for him wasn't about theft, it was about proving what he could do, pushing the limits of the technology in front of him. But then the Xbox 360 rolled out, and with it, much tighter security. To access the system's inner workings, you needed a special developer kit, the kind meant only for approved game studios. But somehow, dozens of these expensive kits resurfaced from a recycling facility. David managed to grab several. And one of the buyers he connected with online was a guy from the US named Justin, with the Screen'em MTW. That connection would later change everything. Using these dev kits, David gained access to PartnerNet, a closed, private network where developers tested their games. He started exploring unreleased titles, sharing screenshots, and even manipulating early game builds. His school grades plummeted, but in his mind, a new thought was forming. Maybe this isn't just a hobby. Maybe this is my path into the game development industry. By 2010, the group expanded. Two new names appeared on the scene. Dylan, a 14-year-old from Australia known as Superday. He was bold and a massive risk taker. And Sonid, a 24-year-old from New Jersey who went by Sonic, another tech obsessive. They joined forces with David and Justin, and soon, they took their first step into illegal profit. They set up cheat servers for Call of Duty. For $100, players could get 30 minutes of godlike abilities, wall hacks, auto-aim, the works. On a good day, David was making up to $8,000. This is the point where curiosity turned into a business, and business turned into serious risk. Money clouds judgment. Activision, the game's publisher, sent warnings. David ignored them. He thought, it's only games. I'm not hacking anything serious. He was wrong. One day, a message from a user named GamerFrake1727 changed everything. He sent Dylan a list of usernames and passwords leaked from a gaming forum. One of them belonged to an IT employee at Epic Games, the creators of Gears of War. Dylan and the group tried the password. It worked, then they tried that same password on other platforms, including Epic's internal company network. It was a jackpot. They now had unfettered access to Epic Games servers. Digging through the files, they discovered something incredible: an early, unreleased build of Gears of War 3, complete with its source code. Thrilled by the find, they secretly sent blurry copies to each other through the mail, using fake labels like wedding videos to hide their tracks. But just days later, the game leaked publicly. Headlines were everywhere. Gears of War 3 build leaked online. Epic Games immediately reported the breach to the FBI. David freaked out. frantically trying to encrypt his hard drives and cover his digital tracks. But Dylan? He just kept logging into the servers, even while the FBI was actively scanning them for intruders. He didn't just stop there. He discovered he could access other companies' networks, and at one point was even watching employees through their webcams. This wasn't just hacking anymore, it had become digital voyeurism. Curiosity had crossed every ethical line imaginable. Over the next 2 years, their list of targets grew. They infiltrated Microsoft, AI, Activision, Valve, Blizzard, AMD, and Intel. They even gained access to classified US military simulations. The thrill of the breach was everything. Then in 2012, David and Dylan stumbled upon a restricted folder on Microsoft's network. Inside was a treasure trove, technical diagrams, source code, and prototype schematics for the next Xbox console, codenamed Durango. They decided they weren't just going to look at it, they were going to build it themselves. They had parts shipped from all over the world to a member of their crew named Nathan, who went by Animfreak. In his bedroom, Nathan successfully assembled a working prototype of the next-gen Xbox. The plan was to sell it for $5,000. Justin, the guy from the US, was supposed to ship the finished console, but it never arrived. The group suspected it had been intercepted. Dylan panicked. In a desperate move, he uploaded photos of the prototype online and even listed it for sale on eBay. The auction quickly hit over $20,000 before Microsoft's legal team shut it down with a copyright claim. But Dylan wasn't done. He started giving interviews to media outlets, proudly using his username, Superday. He declared, "I'm the one who built the console." In his attempt to brand, Superday had just super exposed the entire group. The fallout was swift and devastating. Nathan was arrested. He tried to flee and later self-harmed. After transitioning, she tragically passed away. Sonid and David, our original hacker, each served 18 months in prison. Both would later pivot their skills toward legitimate cybersecurity careers. Another member, Austin, received probation and eventually became the head of cybersecurity at a startup. But Dylan, the risk taker, reportedly fled and disappeared completely. And what about Justin, the one who was supposed to ship the console? It turns out he was person in the FBI documents a suspected informant. When he was finally apprehended, authorities seized a BMW and over $140,000 in cash. He was later sentenced to nearly 8 years in prison. These weren't criminal masterminds. They were smart, talented kids, blinded by opportunity and the rush of discovery. They didn't steal money from people's bank accounts. They stole early access, intellectual property, and bragging rights. And in doing so, they crossed into territories no teenager should ever reach. Their story is a stark reminder that in the digital age, the line between innovation and intrusion is thinner than ever. If you found this story fascinating, just imagine what's happening right now behind the scenes of today's tech giants. Like, subscribe, and share so you never miss the next deep dive into technology, crime, and the untold stories shaping our digital future. Let me know in the comments, do you think they were criminals or just incredibly talented kids who lack guidance? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.